it's us and them. The ANC National Executive Committee adopted a framework. Yeah. We are guided by that framework, nothing else. So, and our position is clear, as the provincial secretary is saying, we are forming a provincial government of unity. As the ANC, we are forming the government, we are leading the government, we are inviting other parties. We've made this clear to the DA that we are inviting them, but they are behaving as if it's us and them. And then if we don't agree, then things fall apart. No, that's why the Premier, the list is got in his pocket now. It doesn't have the DA. It has other parties.
Are political alliances in Gauteng on the brink of collapse? The DA has just walked away from negotiations with the ANC, and the province is buzzing with reactions. Stay tuned to find out why and what this means for us as citizens. Greetings, my fellow brothers and sisters. Welcome to Inkarhi Its Time. I'm Kondos, your host, and today we're diving into the latest political drama shaking Gauteng. The Democratic Alliance has exited negotiation with the African National Congress, citing irreconcilable differences. Meanwhile, the ANC claims the DA is employing bullying tactics. What does this mean for the province's future? Let's break it down. The Democratic Alliance has officially ended negotiations with the African National Congress in Gauteng. This news has sent shockwaves through the political landscape, especially considering the province's significant political and economic influence. But what led to this breakdown? The DA stated that the differences between the two parties were irreconcilable. They felt that continuing the talks will not be productive. On the other hand, the ANC accused the DA of employing bullying tactics during the negotiations. This kind of political frictions isn't new, but it certainly escalated at a critical time. This development has sparked a myriad of reaction on social media. Many are worried about the political instability and what it might mean for local governance and services. Others are taking sides, either supporting the DA's decision to stand firm on their principles or criticizing them for not finding a compromise.
Despite some progress in negotiations today, the DA and the ANC have not yet reached agreement on the composition of a government for Gauteng on the basis of the National Statement of Intent signed on June the 14th. Now, on the basis of the Statement of Intent, Solly Masimanga wrote a letter, this letter, of which we have copies here, I think, to state how we saw the Statement of Intent fairly being implemented in Gauteng. As I say, it was very easily and fairly implemented in KwaZulu-Natal, and this was Solly's letter on the 22nd of June explaining how we saw and understood the translation of the Statement of Intent into a government of provincial unity in Gauteng.
The breakdown in negotiations between the ANC and DA could have several implications for Gauteng's governance. 1. Political instability. Without a clear coalition, there might be a period of uncertainty and instability, which could affect decision-making and policy implementation. 2. Service delivery. If the political deadlock continues, it might slow down or disrupt essential services and development projects in the province. 3. Public confidence. The public's trust in political system might be shaken, leading to increased frustration and potential protests. 4. Economic impact. Gauteng, being an economic hub, might experience economic repercussions if governance issues lead to delays in business operations and investments.
There are two clauses in the Statement of Intent, and they were Clause 16 and Clause 19. Can I have some more? Clause 16 and Clause 19. Those are crucial clauses in the Statement of Intent. Clause 16 defines the principles of proportionality, inclusiveness, and respecting the will of the voters in the outcome of the election. Those are three critical principles that underline the formation of a government. Now that makes sense because you want to respect the will of the voters, which means you have to respect the outcome of the election. We have a proportional representation system, so proportionality is a very important component of our entire electoral system. And then we also agreed that we should try and look at inclusiveness. Now, the other clause was clause 19, which defines the concept of sufficient consensus. Sufficient consensus is a uniquely South African concept that was coined at CODESA in those CODESA negotiations, and I'm old enough to have been at CODESA and here. And in CODESA, basically, there was the application of this concept called sufficient consensus, which we have defined for the very first time very clearly in the statement of intent. So the proportionality clause, which is clause 16, and the sufficient consensus clause, clause 19, were particularly important, and Solly referred to those clauses in his letter to Mr. Okay, I've got to just get it right here, sorry, to Mr. Nisa of the ANC in the province. Now, up till now, the ANC has been prepared to offer the DA a maximum of 3 out of 10 cabinet seats. That is 3 out of 10 cabinet seats, without telling us how many seats they intended to take for themselves and how many they intended to give to other parties. Now, obviously, that's a completely unsatisfactory situation. In the election, the ANC was only slightly bigger than the DA. In the election, the ANC got 34% of the vote, and the DA got 28% of the vote. So we were literally 6 percentage points behind the ANC. We are almost the same size. And so as we go into a government of provincial unity, we needed to take each other into confidence. And it wasn't a situation in which the ANC would constitute a government and invite us in on their terms. It was a situation in which we would respect each other's proportion of the electoral result and agree on the composition of an executive. That was the basis on which it was done. The ANC said, right, we want to give you 3 out of 10 cabinet seats. We wanted to know, well, what do you plan to do with the rest? Because unless we know how many you're planning to take for yourself and whether you're planning to give any to other parties, that is crucially important information for us, and it's information that we need. That's obviously essential to building trust and to ensuring that we get clarity on the composition of government. Now, today in the discussions, it was very useful because the ANC conceded that they had intended to allocate 3 cabinet seats to the DA and keep 7 plus the Premier, that is 8, for themselves. Now, clearly, that would be a violation of the proportionality clause.
Of course, Gauteng has been used in our own analysis by Democratic Alliance as a buffer for their own negotiations. You would know we're supposed to have announced. In terms of concessions, I think, like Comrade Lebza has said, and I don't want to repeat what you have said, we are bringing everyone. Concessions can't only about DA. It makes sense when we only give DA. But when we're saying, wait, let's give others, let's agree, we're coming together, it's not correct. We don't agree to that. We're saying, let's agree that we're bringing everyone, including these small parties that in your mind they are small parties. Because we've learned from municipalities that once you depend on one party, a lot of things can happen. So that's why We are going with the spirit of our leadership in bringing all the parties, including DA. So this thing of proportion that they are trying to raise as a principle, we don't agree with it. Because it means bigger parties must take everything and smaller parties must see to finish. That's where we disagree fundamentally with them. Or if they take, it must be about what they take from the ANC. So I just think we really disagree with them in that context. But outside of that, we are not an arrogant Gauteng ANC. And please, let's not portray it as such.
Can this Gauteng negotiation breakdown affect the agreements already reached at the national level and in KwaZulu-Natal? In my view, the answer to this question is a bold yes. It certainly can. Here is how. 1. National level agreements. The breakdown in Gauteng could signal deeper issues between the DA and ANC, potentially undermining the trust and cooperation needed for national level agreements. This could lead to a reevaluation or even a collapse of those agreements if similar irreconcilable differences are identified. 2. KwaZulu-Natal provincial government. Similar to the national level, agreements in KwaZulu-Natal might also come under scrutiny. The instability in Gauteng could embolden factions within both parties in other regions, potentially leading to a ripple effect of negotiation breakdown. Implications: wider political instability. If the issues in Gauteng spread, we could see increased political instability across multiple provinces, delayed policy implementation. National and provincial agreements could face delay or require renegotiation, affecting policy rollouts and governance efficiency. Economic concerns. Economic uncertainty could grow, affecting investor confidence and potentially slowing down economic growth and development projects. Public discontent. Increased instability and slowdowns in service delivery could heighten public frustration and lead to protest or decreased voter turnout in future elections. What do you think about this? Do you believe the DA made the right choice? Or do you think the ANC's claims hold more weight? How do you think this situation should be handled to minimize negative impacts? The ANC's national office is currently intervening and will brief the nations later today.
Say that we agreed that we wouldn't conclude the Gauteng negotiations until we'd concluded the national negotiations, but they stand separately. So we aren't, and I'll be quite honest, I mean, we could threaten to bring KwaZulu-Natal down if they don't agree to the document's terms in Gauteng, but we're not going to do that. We're not irresponsible people. We don't want to hand KwaZulu-Natal to MK and the EFF. It would be a total disaster for that province. So we're not about to do that. There are other levers that we're going to use, obviously there are. But we're not going to say the people of KwaZulu-Natal can be thrown to the dogs, not at all.
On behalf of other parties. We said, no, we can have an agreement with you. They, in fact, went to the provincial secretary and said, quick, at the day of the legislature. And they came to me and said, hey, the provincial secretary does not decide. I asked the provincial secretary. The provincial secretary said, no, I'm reading. These people are saying this is an agreement between the DA and other parties. And we had even agreed on the number of what the DA will get in the executive, what the DA will get, including the deputy speaker, in the legislature. Then we're now supposed to go to other parties and say, what are you getting, party X, Z? Other parties have even said, no, we don't want to be part of the executive because we're having a holistic discussion. Other parties even said, we want to actually watch over you. There are parties that have said, but we can't divulge here. That said, we want to watch over you, we don't want to join you in the executive.
As we have seen, the fallout from these failed negotiations between the DA and the ANC is already making waves. Whether this leads to new political strategies or further conflict remains to be seen. Gauteng's future is undoubtedly at a crossroads. We would love to hear your thoughts on this significant political event. How do you feel about the DA's decision to exit negotiations with the ANC? Do you think this will impact Gauteng positively or negatively? Drop your comments below and let's get the conversation started. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, Inkarhi Its Time, for more updates on political developments and their impact. Also ring the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay informed and engaged. Take care.